Thanks very much, Thomas. That's a very interesting and promising tool. Promising, you say 4,000 users Europe-wide. This sounds encouraging. And I think you also brought the discussion back to the starting point we were this morning with the Danube strategy, and there's a possibility, I think, for linkage up here. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've had 4 excellent presentations here this afternoon in this session. So now I'd like to open up the remaining time for discussion from the floor. And indeed, I had to cut you off just before lunch, so the lady in the second row has the chance to come in first. There we are.
Thank you. It's a different question, but yeah, of course. I was just curious, and this is a question for Florian. What are the possibilities, and is there already some thinking in how the principles of public administration, which are the framework for the candidate countries, can be linked up, and somehow how continuity can be created towards the toolbox for quality of public administration, which is sort of the toolbox and the framework which is being developed for the EU member states. I understand that there is quite some complementarity there, but the approaches are somehow different. So I'm wondering if there is some thinking already going on as to how, for example, Serbia as an aspiring EU member state, which is now striving to and will be striving in the coming years to comply with all the principles of public administration, how that links up with the use of the toolbox, and is there space already for the candidate states to apply the toolbox in their national contexts, informing their national strategies of public administration reform or in any other way? So how do you see and where do you see the use of the toolbox already for the candidate states, for the candidate countries?
Yes, thank you for this good question. We work very closely with Bernard and colleagues, and because as I said, the toolbox is not a prescriptive thing, it's good practices. We refrain from calling it best practice because the practice is not necessarily transferable. Just to give you an example, one of the rising stars in public administration is Estonia. Yeah, they're very strong, especially on the government. And we always quote it as an example. For example, they implemented something called the once-only principle. I don't know whether you're familiar with the concept. It means if you as a private individual or as a business give your personal data to the government, you never have to give it again if you need another service, because the government will exchange the data within different services. This is very popular, but we cannot say, we cannot recommend that everybody should do this because, for example, in Germany, this would be against the constitution because they have a lot of limitations on data exchange. So even though this is very good and it's saved a lot of money, it's difficult to transfer things. So we always respect the different cultures and traditions. On the other hand, the principles and recommendations, they're fairly universal, and I think they were repeated many times. And it's up to you to look at the toolbox, what you can use from it. I always say the toolbox is like a cookbook. You check which recipe suits you, and you can just be inspired by that and follow that. And if you want, we can discuss with Bernard and colleagues to discuss it in a workshop with colleagues from the Serbian government, what is suitable and so on. So in this sense, the toolbox is really for everybody. Yeah? And if something is whatever, maybe it's too advanced for you, doesn't fit, you leave it aside and you choose what suits you. Yeah. And on the principles of public administration, as I said, we treat this topic very carefully because our mandate is limited. If you don't have a legal basis, we cannot push very much. But if there is, I think there's now increasing awareness and increasing support also from the member states. In fact, I have in the drawer something that would align the approach to principles of public administration also in the member states, but we have to see whether the colleagues and the hierarchies in the Commission agree with this, and indeed whether the member states accept it. However, we note that in the European semester the topic is becoming more prominent, and it also has been agreed that we want to have a more rigorous and more systematic assessment of the topic in the European semester. And what the approach of the of the Sigma assessment on the basis of the principles is in fact the more or less the equivalent. We have it in the European semester. Only in the European semester it's more about the economic governance, but we also cover the public administration. So, but I fully agree that such an alignment is necessary also to pass the message to candidate countries, potential candidate countries, that don't think that once you join the EU you can relax on this. It's important, and don't do it for the EU, but do it for yourself to foster development in your countries.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Lady at the back, and then I'll take the gentleman in front of the camera there. Yeah, okay.
EFCA Header, Southeast European Center for Entrepreneurial Learning, actually CCEL. So we are working with the 8 countries in creating entrepreneurial ecosystem, including Croatia as the youngest member state and the neighborhood as a pre-accession countries and preparing for EU. So just following all the presentations, excellent presentations today, and thank you very much for that, and very interesting, no matter are we talking about public administration, which can be boring, but you made it very interesting, so thank you very much for that. From our work, what are the lessons, what we learned? In all EU policy documents, entrepreneurship as a key competence is a priority, but we find it out. It's not just a priority for the educational system, it's a priority for the public servant, that they are able to think entrepreneurially, that they are shifting from money spent to money invested. This is the first thing. The second thing, what we learned, actually talking about the leaders in the process, in Southeast Europe, we are actually giving all the efforts and we are trying to establish the system. So we are tired from the leaders. Thank you, God, for the system, that the system is functioning and every work and the public administration is sharing the common value and operating the same way, in entrepreneurial way, to help entrepreneurs to go further. Also, in our part of the world, we are struggling with the surveys where the public opinion survey among the young people is saying that the most desirable employment is the public service. So we are looking forward to shift from the public to be employed, to make the employments, to create jobs. And also what we learned from our work, that actually we are tired in our part of the world of the reforms, because I'm 50 and already 25 years I'm reforming myself. I finished in the reform of the reform of the reform, but I'm looking forward that I'm developing and evaluating, so then I'm not 50 years old, then I'm 50 years experienced. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
my name is Jan Meyer-Saling from the University of Nottingham. I've got 2 questions, one for Mr. Prorok and one for Mr. Turbidar. Mr. Prorok, I was very intrigued and interested in your presentation. I was wondering, since you have 220 organizations that apply the CAF framework in Austria, I suppose not all of them have benefited in the same way and not all of them perform in the same way afterwards. Have you found something about the different conditions under which they become more or less successful, because this might be very interesting for the other countries as well. And for Mr. Turbidar, I was wondering about your corruption indicator that you presented, and I was quite impressed when you said that there has been a major increase in the importance that has been attached to the issue of corruption over the last few years. And I was not totally sure whether this is really an increase in corruption. Is there more bribery in the region, or is it an increase in something else? Is it an increase in distrust in the government? Is it an increase in dissatisfaction with government? Does it correlate with unemployment very strongly? So I was wondering, essentially, do you have also some evidence of actual experience with corruption, which links back a little bit to Florian Hauser's presentation earlier? Maybe the survey covers those issues.
Okay, there's 2 direct questions. You want to start?
Well, I do not have evidence directly through the questions, but I have opinion about this. We do not have increase in the region. In my opinion, we have increase of awareness of corruption as a negative issue affecting their daily lives. And why this emerged in the last 1 year, we saw that many leaders who were told that they're untouchable are now in jail. In many economies of Southeast Europe, we have an issue in Croatia that they left without government. So these things are happening. Governments have this issue, and at least fight against corruption is declaratively is in their agenda. Something is happening, and the media is covering all this. And I think that this also indicates to the power of media. They are bringing this to attention of the ordinary citizens. Thanks.
Thomas?
Yes, we have this knowledge. We have it in some surveys, but it's more based on our experiences. We have to say that there are success factors, and of course, not all of the organizations are successful and fulfill then in the end the criteria. Honestly, I can say we have 2/3 which implement the CAF in a good way, in a proper way. They have also afterwards results, and we have 1/3 of organizations where we have problems in a different level. And it always is a question of, have they been aware that it is a big change process, and has it been prepared properly? Has the management supported it properly? Was the management convinced? And that's also the problem of leadership. That's why I mentioned leadership. I mean, if you have a bad management, not the best management, then you can use tools as ever you want. You will not succeed. So it's a management issue. I wrote it down. And some didn't understand the model properly. So this is also what you expect from the model, and what is the outcome. And then yes, it also needs a kind of culture which says, okay, we are open for this change. We are open for include or involve also the staff and the citizens. So these are the success factors in short. And yes, we are not successful with all of them, but at least meanwhile with 2/3.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. I think we can take one more question if there's anybody. I don't see any hands. So if not, then what I will do in the remaining 2 or 3 minutes, I'll give the opportunity to each of the panel members, if there's anything they wish to add, react to, that they've heard in the course of the discussion, that they would like to say. Any final comment? Please.
I would like just to share one information. I couldn't, first of all, comment all that graphs to try to explain the background. I would like to use these 2 minutes to underline this thing. You will remember that I mentioned that this race, that migrants are welcome to pass by, but not to stay. And what Balkan Barometer indicates to us is that this area remains to stay, actually not this, so I'm thinking on Southeast Europe, remains to be traditionally migrant area. Every second person is thinking of leaving its country, going abroad for job and working. And this is, for me, this was the most tragic indicator. Next year I will try to include this question for more young people. And I'm sure that if we focus on the young people, the picture of leaving their countries will be really, really worse. And for me, it was really important what people of Western Balkans are looking for. And they clearly said for them it's economy important, for them jobs are important, and for them good governance is important. And if politicians take this into consideration, this would be good for the daily life of the people. And I would like to use this opportunity to declare that we as Regional Cooperation Council are ready to assist governments until they want to go in reforming their societies and give the answers to their needs, to citizens' needs. At least what we have to do together is to try to transform this negative picture that I have shared to you. And I was very sad because I couldn't give something positive. I like to speak on positive side, not on negative, but topic was really negative and I couldn't share something positive. And I hope that together we can act, and at least for upcoming barometers, Balkan barometers, this transform this negative picture into less negative, if not too positive. Thanks.
Okay, but at least we've got the tool to track the progress, and we wait for the progress. Okay, wrap up now. I think we're now running out of time, so I think all it remains for me to do is thank all our participants in our session this afternoon for their outstanding contributions. We've had another very interesting debate. I can see that you're going to actually split up into work sessions at 3:30 after the coffee break. So I give the floor to Thomas, I think, for some practical arrangements.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Michael. Thank you for moderating it. Our sessions, our first session now. It was very great. Thank you very much. You are the umbrella for us. It was great. Thank you very much. So just technical details. We make now 20 minutes break, and then we split in two groups. One group, the first group, is here in this room. It's the group of the Center of Excellence in Finance. It's strengthening public finance governance in Southeastern Europe. It will be here, and the second group is in the room right from my side. It's better services through strong cities. So please, we start in 20 minutes with the practice sessions.
Okay. So thanks to the participants in the panel discussion.
Thank you.